I can see a floating infidelity percentage above everyone's head. Once the number breaks through 100%, the cold hard number changes into the actual number of times they've cheated. Ever since I discovered this secret in middle school, the image of my parents' marriage breaking down due to infidelity has haunted me, and it made me swear to find a partner with a cheating rate approaching zero. After college, I met Eve at a charity event. She was wearing a cream-colored dress, kneeling on the side of the road to bandage a stray cat's wound. The sunlight fell on her soft blonde hair, and even the cheating percentage 0.08% above her head looked exceptionally pure. Eve was 3 years older than me. Her father had disappeared years ago after racking up $30,000 in gambling debt, and she was working 3 jobs to support her mother and sister. This resilient and pure girl was exactly the person I had been looking for. With the ability to see cheating percentages, I avoided several business risks in the financial industry and became a CFO at the age of 25, accumulating a lot of wealth. To keep Eve, I took the initiative to pay off her family's debt and funded the renovation of their old apartment. With my passionate pursuit, Eve finally agreed to my proposal. In the 2 years of our marriage, she kept the house in perfect order, baked my favorite blueberry muffins in advance every day, and left a warm light on for me when I worked late. I thought I had finally escaped the tragedy of my parents' marriage and found true happiness. The change happened a week ago. I came home late that night and accidentally saw the number above Eve's head jump from 0.08% to 43%. At first, I reassured myself that she might have seen a handsome blogger on social media, just like my best friend, Jack. His cheating rate would fluctuate between 35% and 55% whenever he scrolled through videos of attractive women. But in the next 5 days, Eve's number climbed at a rate of nearly 8% per day until it settled at 83%. That's when I realized something was wrong. I started to pay attention to her actions. She would hide on the balcony to make phone calls and hang up quickly when I approached. Her phone screen was always face down, and she even took it into the bathroom when she showered. Sometimes late at night, she would stare at her phone with a smile I had never seen before. I tried to convince myself that she was just chatting with a close friend, but the 83% number was like a thorn, making me restless. I tried to give her the best life, buying her favorite designer bags, taking her on trips around the world, and even giving her my debit card to manage my salary. I just couldn't figure out who could make her waver. On Friday night, when I came home from work, Eve was sitting on the sofa, nervously twisting her apron. Her cheeks were flushed, but her eyes were shifty, like a thief who had been caught. I looked up and saw that the number above her head had risen to 96% and was glowing with a harsh, ice-red light. I suppressed the anger in my heart and sat down as if nothing was wrong, joking. "Honey, why do you look like a scared little rabbit today? Are you hiding a surprise for me?" Eve's body trembled violently, and the glass in her hand almost fell. She stammered, "No, I'm just tired from cooking today." She tried to force a smile, but her trembling fingertips betrayed her nervousness. I sighed deliberately and said slowly, "Oh, by the way, I heard from a colleague today that something happened to his neighbor. The wife was usually very gentle and virtuous, but she was secretly cheating. When her husband found out, he took a kitchen knife to the man's house, injured 2 people, and was eventually sentenced to prison himself. A perfectly good family was destroyed like that. What a waste." Eve's face instantly turned pale, and the glass clattered to the floor, shattering into pieces. I watched the number above her head jump wildly. 96%, 61%, 23%, 1%. I quickly got up and pretended to be concerned, helping her up by the shoulders. "What's wrong? Did that story scare you?" She hurriedly avoided my gaze, her voice choked with sobs. That's too horrible. Don't ever tell me a story like that again." After she said that, she quickly cleaned up the broken glass and hid in the bedroom, not even eating dinner. I looked at her back and a cold smile formed on my lips. This was my last warning. If she could turn back in time, I was willing to pretend that nothing had happened. In the next 3 days, Eve did indeed become more reserved. She cooked and cleaned on time every day and even took the initiative to share her daily life with me, as if the previous anomaly had been my imagination. But on Wednesday afternoon, a phone call from her shattered the peace again. "Honey, my mom says her knee hurts badly, and I have to go back to my hometown to see her." I probably won't be back tonight. Her voice was a little hurried. Don't come. You're busy with work. I'll be back early tomorrow. I had my doubts. She seemed fine when we video chatted last week. So why did her knee suddenly hurt? But thinking about her recent behavior, I still agreed. Okay, be careful on the road. Call me anytime if you need anything. After hanging up, the more I thought about it, the more something felt off. I just finished my work early and drove to Eve's hometown. 2.5 hours later, I arrived at her building and just got out of the car when I saw Eve's mother, Martha, standing in the hallway with a shopping basket in her hand, not showing the slightest sign of a painful knee. When Martha saw me, she immediately frowned and her tone became impatient. Why are you here? Eve has already left. I suppressed my anger and asked, Mom, isn't your knee bothering you? Eve said it was hurting badly, and I came to check on you. Martha's eyes darted around, but she quickly became self-righteous. It's just an old problem acting up. Eve came back because she was worried, but it's fine now. By the way, since you're here, why didn't you bring any supplements? My knee needs some imported ointment. Transfer me 2,000 yuan. She took out her phone and opened her payment code. Seeing her take it for granted, anger surged up instantly. In the 2 years since we got married, she had asked me for money for all sorts of reasons. Today she said she wanted to buy new clothes. Tomorrow she said she wanted to pay for her sister's tuition. The total was nearly $50,000. I wasn't concerned about the money, but her attitude of treating me like an ATM was unbearable. Mom, I transfer you living expenses every month. Isn't it a bit too much to ask for money like this again and again? I tried to keep my tone calm. Martha's face darkened, and she put her hands on her hips. What's wrong with giving me some money? You married my daughter. Do you think I'm easy to bully? If you don't give me the money today, you're not leaving. Seeing her act like a shrew, I finally understood that Eve's change might be related to her. In order not to waste time, I still transferred the money. After Martha received the money, she immediately smiled and walked into the building. Her steps were so light that she didn't seem like a person with a painful knee at all. I drove home, arriving after 11 p.m. The light in the bedroom was still on. Eve was sleeping in bed with a sweet smile on her lips, but there was a hint of tiredness at the corners of her eyes. I habitually looked up at the top of her head and froze instantly. The original percentage had disappeared, replaced by a bright red number. 4. This meant she had cheated 4 times. I stood by the bed, feeling cold all over. I thought I had chosen the right person, but I still couldn't escape the fate of betrayal. What was even more heartbreaking was that she and her mother had teamed up to lie to me. The so-called going back to her hometown was just an excuse for her infidelity. In the next few days, I pretended that I hadn't discovered anything and continued to be good to her as usual, but I had already started planning my revenge. Eve seemed to be completely unaware and was as gentle as usual, but the number above her head was slowly increasing, from 4 to 5, and then to 7. What made me more alert was that a new percentage appeared next to the number, 99%. This meant that she wanted to cheat again, and it was likely to happen very soon. I secretly hired a private detective to follow Eve and collect evidence. Sure enough, on Friday afternoon, Eve's sister, Lily, called me. Brother-in-law, my sister isn't feeling well today. Can you come home early to be with her? I sneered inwardly, but pretended to be worried. Okay, I'll go back as soon as I finish work. After hanging up, I immediately contacted the detective and learned that Eve had gone to a couple's hotel in the city center with a man. At 2 a.m., when I returned home, Eve was already asleep, and the number above her head had changed to 10. Just then, the detective sent me a message with 2 files attached, labeled first time and second time. I opened the files, and my pupils contracted sharply when I saw the man in the photos. It was Rio, a mid-level manager at the company, and my rival when I was competing for the CFO position. It turned out that he had held a grudge against me and was now getting revenge in this way. What made me even angrier was that the video sent by the detective also recorded their conversation. Eve, when I get the company's security key and manipulate the accounts to bring him down, I'll be the CFO, and I'll give you whatever you want. Rio wrapped his arms around Eve, his voice intimate. Eve leaned into his arms and said with a smile, Okay, I'll find a chance to steal it tomorrow. He definitely won't suspect me. I turned off the video, and I already had a plan in mind. I knew that Rio not only wanted revenge, but also the company's financial data. Sure enough, on Sunday night, I pretended to be asleep, and Eve secretly went through my briefcase, took the security key, and put a fake one in its place. She thought she had done it seamlessly, but she didn't know that I had already installed a hidden camera in the bedroom and recorded her every move. The next day, when I checked the company's system, I found that $20 million had been transferred to an overseas account. Rio really wanted to frame me for embezzlement, but he didn't expect that I not only had evidence of him and Eve's infidelity, but also the video of Eve stealing the key. This betrayal, from the very beginning, was a carefully planned conspiracy, but they miscalculated by not knowing my secret ability to see cheating rates. Now, it was my turn to fight back. All right, since they want to play, I don't mind playing along. The disappearance of $20 million needed time to ferment, and before Rio could act, Eve's mother Martha and sister Lily came to my door. Martha's face was gloomy, while Lily didn't even lift her head from her phone. As soon as she came in, she kicked off her sneakers and collapsed on the sofa with a pungent smell of sweat. Martha was even worse. She sat cross-legged on the sofa without taking off her shoes, as if this was her territory. Ethan, Lily and her boyfriend have been dating for 3 years. It's time for them to get married. The girl is from the city, and she can't be squeezed into my broken-down house in the countryside. Can she? Martha's tone was full of unquestionable command. You have to buy Lily a villa in the city center, just like the one you live in. She also has her eye on that Maybach. It would look great at the wedding. Oh, and the $50,000 bride price. Not a penny less. Although Lily has a job, the salary is only a few thousand a month, which is not enough for her to date. You have to do these things, or don't expect Eve to have an easy time. Looking at her greedy face, I couldn't help but sneer. Ever since I married Eve, I had been kind to her family because I loved her. I sent them luxury goods on holidays, paid to renovate their rural house, arranged an easy administrative job for Lily, and even bought her a car. But their appetite was growing. Martha's once thin waist was now piled with fat, a clear result of a good life. I used to tolerate it because I cared about Eve, but now they were colluding to betray me and wanted to drain my last penny? That was just a pipe dream. Mom, getting married is a big deal, but there's no need to be so extravagant, is there? I deliberately slowed down my tone. Martha immediately exploded, slapping the coffee table and shouting, "What do you mean? You've grown wings now and won't even listen to me? If I hadn't agreed to let Eve marry you back then, would you be where you are today?" Lily also put down her phone and looked at me disdainfully. "Brother-in-law, you're a millionaire now. Don't be so stingy. My sister is with you. What's wrong with spending a little money on me?" Eve also pulled my arm, her eyes red. "Honey, just for me. Lily is my only sister, please." They thought that with my old affection for Eve, as long as they acted pitiful and said some harsh words, I would compromise. But they forgot that what I hated most was betrayal. I stared at them and said word by word, "I don't have the money." "What did you say?" Martha was so angry that she threw the teacup, and the pieces scattered all over the floor. "Eve, look. This is the good man you found. An ungrateful wretch. If I had known, I should have let you marry a rich man." Lily stood up abruptly and grabbed my collar. "Are you messing with us? Do you believe I'll make my sister divorce you?" Eve cried even harder, trying to soften me with her tears. I gently pushed Eve away, a sarcastic smile on my lips. "Don't be in a hurry. I didn't say I wouldn't help." Lily's eyes lit up instantly, and Martha's face also softened. "But the company has some financial problems recently, and I've invested all my liquid funds to fill the gap," I said, pretending to be helpless. "It will take at least a week for the funds to come back. At that time, not to mention a villa and a car, I can give you an extra $100,000 bride price. The problem now is that you have to pay the down payment first, and when I get the money, I'll pay you back immediately." Lily frowned. "The down payment costs several million. Where would we get so much money?" "You can get a loan," I kindly reminded them. "There are many online lending platforms and banks can also provide mortgages. If that doesn't work, you can mortgage your house in the countryside. Anyway, I can pay you back in a week, so you don't have to be afraid of loan sharks." They didn't suspect a thing. In their eyes, I was a simp who was manipulated by Eve and was willing to do anything to please her. To get them to bite faster, I took them to see the villa and the Maybach that day. Lily fell in love with a villa with a garden and a black Maybach at first sight, and the salesperson coincidentally said that another client was also interested in the two and was coming to pay the deposit tomorrow. Lily was anxious, afraid of losing her beloved things, and immediately pulled Martha to apply for a loan. I had already bought off the salesperson. This was just a way to accelerate them jumping into the trap. In the next 2 days, Lily and Martha borrowed money frantically. They not only took out high-interest loans online, but also mortgaged their rural house to the bank and finally scraped together the down payment. When they came to me with the purchase contract and the car agreement, their faces were full of pride, completely unaware that the nightmare had already begun. On Monday, Rio walked into my office smugly, with his hands in his pockets and a look of contempt in his eyes. "Ethan, do you think you're safe after taking my CFO position? Soon, you'll be in prison to reflect." I didn't even look up and continued to read my documents. "Oh, I'd like to see what you can do." Rio was enraged by my indifference and leaned close to my ear, his voice full of provocation. "Your wife tastes great. She's more active in bed than you think. If she hadn't helped me steal the security key, I wouldn't have had the chance to embezzle that $20 million. I finally looked up at him like a clown. "Are you done? If you are, then get out and don't disturb my work." Rio's face turned ashen with anger, but he had no choice but to leave dejectedly. Not long after, President Matthews called an emergency meeting for all executives. Rio gave me a smug look, as if he had already seen me getting fired. In the conference room, Matthews threw a stack of documents in front of me and questioned angrily, "Ethan, the company's accounts are missing $20 million. You'd better explain yourself." Everyone's eyes were on me, and there was a constant murmur of whispers. The CFO holds the security key, and no one but me had the ability to embezzle such a large sum of money. "Mr. Matthews, please wait a few minutes. Someone will be here to explain," I said calmly. Matthews' face became even worse. "Fine. I'd like to see who can help you get away with this. If you can't explain yourself, you'll be rotting in jail." 10 minutes later, several police officers walked into the conference room and went straight to Rio, showing him an arrest warrant. "Rio, you are suspected of illegally embezzling company funds and framing a colleague. You're coming with us now." Rio's face instantly turned pale, and he struggled, shouting, "It wasn't me. It was Ethan." The key was always in his hand. Only he knew the password. "You've got the wrong person." I took out my phone and played a recording. It was a conversation between Rio and Eve, clearly documenting how they planned to steal the key, embezzle funds, and frame me. Rio's body started to tremble, and cold sweat soaked his shirt. "This is just a part of the evidence. I've already handed over the rest to the police," I added, "including photos and videos of you and Eve in the hotel, and your records of transferring money to the overseas account." Rio collapsed into the chair, his eyes full of despair, and was dragged out by the police. Matthews and the other executives were stunned and all looked at me. After the others left, I walked up to Matthews and whispered, "Mr. Matthews, you don't want your wife to know about your date with that lady at the hotel in the west of the city last week, do you?" Matthews' face instantly became rigid, and he no longer dared to question me. From then on, my position in the company became more stable, and no one dared to challenge my authority. With Rio taken care of, it was time to deal with Eve's family. I didn't argue with her. I just had a lawyer deliver the divorce papers to her. When Eve saw the divorce papers, her face instantly turned pale, and Martha rushed to my house, pointing at my nose and cursing, "Ethan, you scum. What did my daughter do wrong to you? You want a divorce? If you don't give me an explanation today, I'm not leaving." She was about to hit me, but I dodged and kicked her to the ground. "Mom!" Eve quickly helped Martha up, and Lily swung her fist at me. I slapped her back, and she stumbled and fell onto the sofa. "You know in your hearts how many benefits you've taken from me over the years," I said, rubbing my fingers coldly. "You say I'm ungrateful, but what you've done is much more ruthless than me." Eve cried and said, "What did I do wrong? Why are you doing this to me? What did you do wrong?" I took out a stack of photos and threw them in front of her. In the photos, she and Rio were intimate in the hotel. The images were unbearable. Eve's crying stopped abruptly, and she collapsed on the floor. Martha quickly grabbed the photos and tried to chew them to destroy them, but she spat them out after a couple of chews, her face contorted. "You spied on us. You pervert." "Pervert." I took out another stack of photos. "Are these enough? And the videos? Do you want me to play them for you?" Martha was shaking with anger but couldn't say a word. After a long while, she finally recovered and gritted her teeth. So what if we divorce? Do you think we're afraid of you? We can get at least half of the community property. With my daughter's looks, it's not hard to find another rich man. Lily also chimed in. Exactly. You still owe us money for the villa and the Maybach. You have to pay us back. I couldn't help but laugh out loud. The villa and the Maybach were bought with loans in your names. What does that have to do with me? As for the property, 99% of my assets are premarital. The only thing you can get is half of that 1%, about $10,000, which is not even enough to cover the interest on your high-interest loans. They finally understood that I had been playing them all along. Martha's blood pressure soared, and she fainted on the spot. After being taken to the hospital, the doctor said she needed long-term treatment, but they had no money to pay for the medical bills. Lily was sued by the bank for not being able to repay her loans, and the mortgaged house was repossessed. The loan sharks came to their house every day and took away all their valuable belongings. On the day the court ruled, Eve, looking haggard, stopped me outside the courthouse and hugged my leg, crying, "Ethan, I was wrong. I was really wrong. I shouldn't have trusted Rio, and I shouldn't have betrayed you. Can you forgive me? I'll be good to you from now on and never contact another man again." Martha and Lily also knelt on the ground, crying and begging for my forgiveness. I pushed Eve away coldly and looked at them. "You're not regretting betraying me. You're regretting losing me as your cash cow." I turned and left without looking back. Later, I heard that because Martha had no money for treatment, her condition got worse and worse, and she eventually died at home. Lily couldn't pay back the loan sharks and had her legs broken by them. She could only beg for a living. Eve became emaciated and ragged, and her former beauty was gone. She was huddled under a bridge, regretting it every day, but it was too late. As for me, my career became more and more successful. I acquired the company a few years later and became the real boss. I never believed in anyone's 0% cheating rate again, but I knew that as long as I stuck to my principles, I wouldn't be hurt by betrayal again. Those who betrayed me ultimately paid the price they deserved. This was the end result of their greed and stupidity. Half a year later on a weekend, I accompanied a business partner to a private winery in the suburbs to discuss a project. As the car drove through the winery's gates, I saw a figure in a faded waiter's uniform, bent over, awkwardly and clumsily polishing a customer's shoes. I didn't pay much attention until the person looked up to take the tip, and that thin, sallow face made me stop. It was Lily. Her hair was dry and matted, and the stray strands on her forehead were stuck to her face with sweat. Her once manicured nails were cracked and stained with shoe polish. When she saw me, Lily's pupils contracted sharply, and she lowered her head like a startled mouse, wishing she could bury her face in her collar. My business partner noticed my gaze and asked with a smile, "Do you know this waiter, Mr. Ethan?" I looked away, shaking my head faintly. "No, I just thought she looked familiar." As we were talking, the owner of the winery came over and greeted us warmly. He mentioned that he had recently hired a few temporary waiters, and his tone was full of disdain. "They're all people who can't pay their debts. They're clumsy at work. I wouldn't have hired them if they weren't so cheap. That shoe polisher, for example, had a dispute with a debt collector at the winery's entrance a while ago, which almost affected my business." I held my wine glass and looked at Lily in the distance. A customer deliberately stepped on his leather shoes in the mud, threw her a wrinkled dollar bill, and told her to polish them again. Lily bit her lip, squatted down, and her fingers turned white from the effort. I suddenly remembered that every time she came to my house with Eve, she would complain that the shoes polished by the maid were not shiny enough, but now she had to endure such humiliation in front of everyone. When we finished the project and were about to leave, Lily suddenly ran over and stopped my car, holding onto the car door tightly, her voice hoarse. "Brother-in-law, please help me one more time. My mom passed away, I can't reach my dad, and Lily is still in the hospital. I'm really at my wit's end." Her tears mixed with the dirt on her face, leaving black streaks. I rolled down the car window and looked at her. "Have I not helped you enough? You chose to betray and be greedy. The outcome you have now is what you deserve." Lily knelt on the ground and kowtowed desperately. "I know I was wrong. I won't ever dare again. As long as you help me, I'm willing to be your servant." Just then, the winery's security guard ran over, grabbed Lily by the collar, and rudely dragged her to the side. "How dare you harass guests? You don't want to work anymore, do you?" Lily struggled and turned her head to shout at me. "Ethan, you can't just leave me to die. Eve is waiting for me to bring her food under the bridge. She's about to die." I didn't feel a ripple in my heart and told the driver to drive away. As the car drove away from the winery, I saw Lily being held on the ground by the security guard in the rearview mirror, her shoulders trembling nonstop. I took out my phone and sent a message to my assistant, asking him to send Eve to a homeless shelter, not out of sympathy, but because I didn't want to hear anything about them again and wanted them to disappear from my life completely. Later, my assistant told me that when Eve arrived at the shelter, she had a high fever and her body was covered in frostbite. The doctor said she had been malnourished for a long time and her internal organs were also failing. Even if she was cured, it would be difficult for her to recover her health. Lily was fired by the owner for causing trouble at the winery multiple times, and no one had seen her since. Some said she was taken away by a debt collector, while others said she had hidden in a slum. As for me, I never paid attention to their news again. I put more energy into my career, and the company's scale continued to expand. I also established a charitable foundation to help people who truly needed help. Some people asked me if I felt too cruel to Eve's family. I just smiled. When they chose to betray me, they should have expected today's outcome. Human greed is like a bottomless pit. Once you step into it, you can never turn back. I once gave them a chance, but they chose to destroy themselves. Now I'm living a good life, and that's enough. The betrayal and hurt have long become a thing of the past, and I will only move towards a brighter future.